Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that helps folks that I'm encountering is just creating a sound-rich environment and just creating that sound-rich environment so that that soothing, relaxing sound blends with your tinnitus, and your brain has a tendency to naturally then pull that sound into the background because it's constant and it's soothing and it's benign, and your brain does that on its own. That's kind of a natural mechanism that we have. Your tinnitus and your sound preferences actually starts to relay new neural connections, right? It teaches your brain that on a more consistent basis, your tinnitus doesn't belong here, it belongs here.
Today's guest on the Tinnitus Relief Podcast is Dr. Tatyana Kennedy from Treble Health. Dr. Kennedy has over 19 years of audiology experience. As someone who has personally experienced tinnitus herself, Dr. Tatyana is deeply passionate about increasing access to evidence-based tinnitus and hearing solutions. Dr. Tatyana is the director of the solutions team at Treble Health, which helps people like you find an evidence-based solution for their tinnitus. Dr. Tatyana, let's jump into it. What do you see when patients speak to you trying to find a solution for tinnitus? What are the things, any other things that they've tried that haven't really done much for them? Or, on the contrary, have actually lowered their tinnitus and they're just looking to lower it further?
Yeah, I think the biggest things that people try first are things with, easy access, right? Herbal supplements, various things that are marketed for tinnitus over the counter, things that maybe are marketed on the internet or even in a pharmacy for tinnitus. And generally speaking, the reason they're talking to me is because they haven't had much success with them. From there, people usually, especially if they're following our channel, have tried some sort of sound therapy or what I would describe as kind of sound enrichment to get some relief to ease their perception of tinnitus, and usually with some pretty good results, right? So they'll notice, oh, when I use these sounds, it helps. Maybe it doesn't get me all the way there, but I notice a little bit of relief for sleep, for concentration, for various other impacts that the tinnitus can have, areas of impact. What you alluded to earlier, though, is finding the right sound, finding the right volume, finding how long should I use it, right? So all the precision of how to set up the sound therapy in a way that's going to be effective, not just in finding immediate relief, but also making a larger impact and having a more significant improvement in their tinnitus. And I think that's where people start to look for additional help and support and resources. And those are the conversations that we're having. That's what we ultimately, our clinical work team works on here, right? Is finding how to get that sound therapy dialed in, not just for short amounts of relief, but for lasting tinnitus improvement.
Yeah, love that. When we describe a tinnitus solution, that means it's solving a problem. So, what are the common problems? You mentioned sleep, concentration or focus, stress or anxiety, sometimes sound sensitivity. Let's work through what are great solutions for those individual problems. Some simple things that people can get help with, and then a more advanced approach. Let's start with sleep. What are some simple things? And then what is a more advanced approach in your opinion?
Yeah, so the first one is sleep, right? If we're not sleeping, I always say just everything gets harder. Tinnitus gets more challenging, but life in general gets a little harder when we're not sleeping well. So, getting that dialed in first is usually what we start to focus on. And that's where we generally see the biggest impact for folks from their tinnitus, especially in the early stages. The immediate solutions are usually some sort of sound therapy at nighttime, and even just starting those things a little bit as we ease into nighttime so we don't get anxious feelings about getting ready to sleep. Are we going to be able to sleep? You kind of have the sound therapy there to sort of catch you. I describe it as kind of a safety net.
Let's go deeper into the actual what does it look like when I have loud tinnitus and I'm trying to fall asleep. I'm preparing for bed and I turn off the lights. I go to sleep. Most of us are trying to fall asleep in a quiet room. Now, if you have tinnitus, you might have been experimenting with playing a white noise machine, turning on a fan, leaving the TV on. Those are very common things that people come to us saying, "Hey, I'm already doing this. I can't sleep in a silent room." And then I'm tossing and turning. It might be very hard to fall asleep because this persistent noise is in my head. I can't stop thinking about it. How could someone stop thinking about this
Mhm.
persistent noise that's in my head when I'm trying to fall asleep and relax? the two are just opposing forces. What do you see from your patients in regards to that particular problem? What else is going on for them?
Yeah, usually it's very common, and I think what you're seeing there is more of an anxiety starting to feed into the tinnitus about sleeping and whether you're going to be able to sleep in addition to the sound itself, right? So using sound therapy, whether that's through a speaker, through a sleep headband, through your phone, is an important piece of it. But I think also having some other techniques to get into a restful state, into a rest and digest state, as we call it, versus an anxious or more of a fight or flight state as we approach sleeping, is really important. So having some techniques um, fall more into that cognitive behavioral side of things, which you mentioned earlier, we work on to help with that part too, right? Because hard to avoid those types of feelings. I can say from experience, right? I had tinnitus. I understood on a rational level what it was, but I always say it didn't stop me from panicking in the beginning. And so, having some tools for nighttime that how do we prepare for sleep? How do we set up the room? How do we, get ready? Maybe we try some breathing exercises if we're feeling especially anxious to sort of signal to our body that, lower the heart rate, lower the respiration, start to become more calm. Maybe doing something like a meditation, right? Those are tools that our clinical audiologists help a lot with in those early stages of the program.
Absolutely. And when you say clinical audiologists, you're referring to our doctors who take on new patients in our telehealth program at Treble Health and work with them often for, on average, a period of about 3 months, helping them go from, for example, a 7 out of 10 intensity tinnitus down to, after those 3 months, a 3 out of 10 intensity tinnitus. Then the patient can continue on self-managing this condition until it goes down, down, down as low as it can go. If you're interested in that, we'll put a link here on the screen to schedule a free consultation with a member of our team where you can discuss that. Let's jump into the more advanced sleep protocol. I'll explain that one thing that I've seen has been very helpful, touching on what you said, is a protocol called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. In reality, it doesn't need to be specified for tinnitus. A lot of these principles are what will get our patients to fall asleep faster. And when they wake up in the middle of the night, for example, to go to the bathroom and they come back and try to fall asleep, it'll allow them to get back to sleep faster. All right. One of the tools that I love from that protocol, and I use personally, is if it's been 20 minutes in your bed, tossing and turning, trying to fall asleep, you might be stuck in your mind. The body's not that restful, it's not that tired. You can feel yourself on edge. Get up and go to a different room in your house and just sit on a chair, sit in a couch. Don't turn the TV on. You can turn the lights on or keep them off. Sit up until you're tired again and then go back into your bed and try to fall asleep. In those 20 minutes, that's your opportunity to fall asleep. You don't need to force it and don't try to do it. Just relax and try to fall asleep. Allow yourself to fall asleep. If it doesn't work, then another time, go back in this chair in a different room, sit up, focus on your breathing, be calm, maybe read a relaxing book until you're tired again, and then do this. What this does, part of this cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia protocol, is it conditions your mind to associate the bed with sleeping, not restlessness. It's one of the many tools of this program, the CBT for insomnia, that is a more advanced protocol for sleep. Our audiologists are using components of this for our patients, and obviously this is helpful if we can get the behavior to change here. Life can be 20% easier simply from getting good sleep. Let's transition into perhaps the second most common problem or issue that our patients have, which is concentration or focus. Tatiana, can you paint the picture of why is this a problem and how is this a problem? What kind of sounds are people hearing? What are they trying to concentrate and focus on?
Yeah, so that's definitely one we hear often. What we usually see the concentration, or sometimes people say focus, is in a couple of different areas. Certainly as it relates to work, right? Especially if someone tends to work in a quiet area, they'll say, I'm trying to focus, but the tinnitus is just always in the front of my mind and it takes my focus or my attention away from the task at hand. I can't get into that flow state and continuously concentrate on what I'm trying to do. Sometimes it's focus or concentration in terms of hearing. They notice that someone is speaking to them and they have a hard time continuing to concentrate or focus on the person that's talking to them and retain and respond appropriately to the information that the person is saying. They have a hard time staying engaged in that conversation. Usually they can overcome that, but it takes a lot more effort. So that's something we see. And then the other one is usually just enjoying quiet. I think that that's another version of focus, right? Maybe someone's just trying to read a book or knit or watch television or do something that is as a relaxing activity generally, but they have a hard time maintaining concentration or focus because the tinnitus is always kind of jumping to the forefront and getting in the way. That's kind of how people describe it on average.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a big problem because if I'm working, if I'm trying to read documents, read emails, whether I'm retired or still working, I'm doing work, right? Managing life takes work, it takes focus, it takes concentration to, have a comfortable life, pay the bills, take care of family and friends. Not being able to do that is really fundamental. So it's one of the most important problems that we work with our patients to find a solution for. Now, this applies to waking hours because we're not trying to focus or concentrate when we're asleep. So, Tatiana, what have you found to be some simple tools that anyone listening can gain knowledge on that they might be able to start now, and then later we can discuss a more advanced protocol to help with concentration or focus in quiet environments.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that helps folks that I'm encountering is just creating a sound rich environment. That can be something as simple as again a small tabletop speaker that plays soothing, relaxing sounds while you're trying to work. You can use that in an in an office space, in your home, in a quiet space where you generally tend to work or focus, and just creating that sound rich environment so that that soothing relaxing sound blends with your tinnitus, and your brain has a tendency to naturally then pull that sound into the background because it's constant and it's soothing and it's benign, and your brain does that on its own. That's kind of a natural mechanism that we have. So that allows the thing that you're working on to be in the forefront and the sound to be more in the background. So that's it. Something simple you can try today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Basic sound therapy in the background. I'm always shocked that smart, educated, savvy people come to us and they say, yeah, I can't focus when I'm trying to work or read. And I say, well, are you in a quiet situation? They say, yeah, I'm in a quiet room. To me, it's so obvious, but to so many listening, they've never been educated on what this means. Basic sound therapy in the background at a low level, a sound machine, a white noise machine will make it easier, right? Now, that's not a treatment. That's not necessarily a long-term solution so that your tinnitus goes away or reduces, but it helps in the moment and makes it easier. The more advanced protocol, from what I've seen, would be a combination of sound therapy treatment plus cognitive behavioral techniques. So essentially, this is addressing the auditory brain component with the sound therapy, and it's addressing the psychological, emotional, limbic system part of our brain with the cognitive behavioral techniques. Cognitive means mind, behavioral means behaviors. So essentially, it's changing mental reactions and perspective on certain things, and then changing behaviors, how we position our body and our ears in different environments. So just really zoomed out, this is what will help someone focus and concentrate. Let's imagine I have a 7 out of 10 intensity tinnitus using you know, sound therapy devices on the ears and starting to use these tools that I've been describing. Um, it's common for the 7 out of 10 with good sound therapy in the ears to go down to a 5 out of 10 pretty immediately, right? And that's a little relief. That takes the edge off of it. That's often what we see for folks who, meet with us and work with Treble Health. The that's great, but that's a short term or in the moment benefit. The real solution, the effective solution, what everyone should want, in my opinion, is a lasting treatment so that the 7 out of 10 becomes eventually, after months of working through this, it becomes a 3 out of 10. Even when the sound therapy is taken off the ears, I'm able to concentrate and work in a quiet environment, and my perception of the sound essentially what it is to me is a 3 out of 10. That's life-changing for many people who are trying to work, who are trying to enjoy quiet time. What am I missing here? What other components of finding this lasting solution are really needed to discuss?
Yeah, I think you're spot on is that, in the immediate, you have that relief, that instant relief, and you can get those immediate tasks done. Over the long term, using sound therapy worn on the ears that's really precisely dialed into your hearing, your tinnitus, and your sound preferences actually starts to relay new neural connections, right? It teaches your brain that on a more consistent basis, your tinnitus doesn't belong here, it belongs here. So as it's like, working out in the gym, right? You get those reps and you build that strength. And the same thing goes for, retraining the brain's perception of tinnitus. We can put it for a short period of time from here to here, right? And get that 7 to a 5, but over a long-term use, consistent use, repetition, it starts to bring it down to a 3 or sometimes even lower, as we see oftentimes. And then the brain actually learns to do that on its own so that we can wean people off of using sound therapy and they can continue having those quiet moments without tinnitus interfering. That's how I experience my tinnitus currently. I can be in a quiet workspace like I'm in now and really have very little interference from my tinnitus on average.
Absolutely. Maybe in a future podcast, we can hear you play the piano behind you, bring some sound into the room. I personally love that for those watching on video. And when you describe the changes in the brain, you're referring to, brain plasticity. Sometimes people reach out to us and they say, hey, I know that at Treble Health you offer the Tinnitus 180 program or tinnitus retraining therapy, but do you do brain plasticity? Do you do brain, neuroplasticity? And I think there's a miscommunication in some ways. Any tinnitus treatment that's successful is going to be using brain plasticity to some degree. Tinnitus is often linked to the ear, but it's coming from the brain. So brain changes happen every single day, whether we choose to take actions and change our habits or not. So yes, we do promote neuroplasticity for a positive change where the perception of tinnitus, the intensity, the volume, the nature of tinnitus will change to the individual during a successful treatment. For those wondering, on our team, for example, a successful treatment occurs in 85% of patients. That is so different than what most people hear from their doctors, that there's not much they can do, or even worse, there's nothing you can do. That's why we have this podcast. That's why we're sharing this information to give people hope and a potential path towards a solution. I want to shift gears slightly and go into other key areas that someone might be needing help. Earlier, I had hinted at the stress or anxiety component of this. Let's focus on something called the fight or flight response. And I have a story that I learned from one of my mentors, Dr. Pavel Jastroboff, founder of Tinnitus Retraining Therapy. So the story is that imagine two situations, right? Situation one, you go to a motel. You're driving, it's late at night, you find a motel, you need to sleep somewhere on your road trip. Situation one, the front desk at the motel, they say, yeah, we have a room for you. It's our last room, our availability, except just wanted to let you know that in the town there was an event where there was a circus and they had different animals. There were some animals that could be potentially dangerous that escaped. We don't know where they are. We just need to let everyone know. The police, made us tell all of our guests that should something happen, the circus down the street, they let some animals loose by accident. And you're a little tired. You're probably thinking, okay, it's not really that big of an issue. I doubt anything's going to happen. You go into your room, you brush your teeth, you drink some water, you get ready for sleep, you turn off the bed, and a few minutes in, you hear this soft but peculiar hissing sound. And then you remind yourself that the animals potentially are in this hotel room. That's what they just told me. You start to worry. You start to be put in a fear response. Is this a snake in my room? Immediately you shrivel up in a ball and you shriek, and I would probably dial the front desk. Someone come save me. Maybe you turn on the light. You're searching for it. You can't find it. You maybe think it's in the sheets of your bed. You're freaking out. You go outside the door. Um, the front desk attendant comes and they say, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And you say, "I think there's a snake." And they go inside the room and they go, "What do you mean? I don't see any snake. They're trying to figure this out." You say, "I know I heard a sound. There's a hissing sound. I can still hear it." And the attendant listens for it in a quiet space, and they go closer towards the radiator and they say, "Oh, that's the sound of our radiator. It makes this sound." And you immediately just feel your fight or flight system deactivate. You feel your nervous system relax, and you start to be at ease. Okay, that's situation one. Situation two is you go to the front desk, and um, they say, "Yeah, we have one room available for you, and just so you know, the radiator makes a little bit of a hissing noise. Is that a problem?" You say, Probably not. Let me go in and listen for it." "Okay, yeah, I hear the hissing sound, but it's not that big of an issue. It's coming from the radiator. That should be fine. I'll take the room." You go to sleep peacefully. Uh, this demonstrates a few things. Number one, it demonstrates that a lack of clear knowledge of what is happening, what's the cause of your tinnitus? Do you have a reassuring viewpoint on the prognosis of what is happening to your body and what is the likely outcome of, will this get better? How long will it take? Am I going to be okay? Um, it also shows that the fight or flight response can make the sound much bigger of a problem than it otherwise would be. And if we can deactivate the fight or flight reaction or the emotional reaction or the perception that this is going to hurt us, this tinnitus sound is going to hurt us, it's a threat, it's a danger. If we can deactivate those responses, because in most cases that's exactly what we end up doing with our patients, that at that time things become very manageable. And when patients graduate from our program, that's exactly what they say. The tinnitus sound is lessened, it's much more manageable, and I know exactly what I need to do to keep this just a mild problem in my life and not anything worse. Um, Dr. Tatiana, I'll pass it to you here in a moment. That's one of my favorite stories to illustrate. It's not just the ears, it's not just what you're hearing that is impacting this system. The limbic system is the emotional network of the brain, and it's connected directly to the fight or flight response. So if we can work within those areas with our tools, then we have excellent results with our patients.
Yeah, absolutely. Context is so important, right? And I think that story really speaks to that. I was starting to feel it when you were describing the snake. I was like, ah, hope it's the radiator. I hope the end of the story is that it's the radiator. But you start to feel that, right? Your body starts to actually create that sensation, heighten that sensation. And when you're
What
the
are
one
what are
living
those
it,
fears? What are those fears that patients have about their tinnitus that they explain or describe to
yeah,
you?
I think a lot of times it's having read something negative online, having heard a negative response from a doctor, such as there's nothing you can do, or you just have to learn to live with it, or they read something online from a person who hasn't treated their tinnitus and they've had it for a long time and it's just getting worse. Just a lot of doom and gloom sometimes is what you're exposed to. And it's like the circus, right? You start to think, oh man, like what's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? What is this a symptom of? Is this only going to get worse? How will I sleep? How will I do my job? How will I parent?
Am I
All of
going to
those.
lose my hearing?
Right, right. All of those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions start to work in with the auditory sensation and sort of tether that sound in place. And so you're absolutely right. That emotional component really plays strongly in with the tinnitus. And when I'm talking to folks at kind of the beginning side of interacting with Treble Health, we always try to understand to what extent that's factoring in for them. So once we design a treatment plan, we can really decide how significantly we need to address that portion in addition to sound therapy, of course.
Amazing. So for individuals who are listening who are seeking a solution for tinnitus, my recommendation would be take one or two key points from this talk. Either number one, what can I do right now to help with my sleep or my concentration or focus or my stress or anxiety? Or number two, speak with our team, we'll include a link right there. You can click that button on YouTube and reach out to our team. We'll be able to talk to you and understand your specific case and recommend some different options. If that happens to be working with us for our Tinnitus 180 program, to reduce tinnitus, turn your life around 180 degrees, we are more than happy to do so. That's exactly why Treble Health exists as a telehealth virtual clinic with expert audiologists. Dr. Tatiana, how can someone find you or get in touch with you if they want to work with you or Treble Health?
Yeah, so any the link that you just mentioned will help schedule a consultation. Myself and a few other folks like myself all work on the Tinnitus Solutions team, and we would love to speak with you, understand your case better, understand what your specific tinnitus sound is and the history behind it, what you've tried and what's been successful, and what we could still help you with, and which of the sound therapy or cognitive behavioral tools would be helpful for you, and start to design a solution from there. And sometimes it's just talking to someone and understanding your case and understanding what's happening to me and what can be done, right? That hopeful feeling. So give us a call or schedule a consultation, and we'd be happy to chat with you about your specific case and your tinnitus.
Amazing. All right, guys, keep your hope, keep your faith, and thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.